Chain 1. The death of noise. Most men fear silence not because it is empty, but because it is full. Why silence terrifies modern men? Not because there's nothing in it, but because it contains everything they've been running from. Let's begin. The sound of nothing. You live in a world where silence is rare. Even rarer is the man who can stand it. Most men, the moment they enter a room and hear nothing but the hum of their own breath, reach for something. A phone, a screen, a song, a woman, a craving disguised as curiosity. Because they don't hear silence, they hear a threat. Silence is the mirror no one wants to look into. It shows you the parts of yourself you edited out of the highlight reel. It brings back the unspoken disappointments, the buried fears, the trembling boy inside who was never held, only distracted. And that is why noise is worshipped. We tell ourselves we like music, we enjoy staying informed, we just want to relax with a show. But that's not the truth. The truth is, noise is armor. Noise is how you avoid seeing the battle inside. Noise gives your demons a lullaby. Noise says, "Don't worry, we don't have to face that today." But here's what no one told you. Noise is not neutral. What you think keeps you safe is what keeps you soft. Jung's revelation. The outer noise is inner chaos. Carl Jung didn't need Instagram or endless playlists to see the truth. Long before digital noise, he wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." That anything now has a name: content. We consume to avoid confrontation. We scroll not for discovery, but for anesthesia. Because when you stop the motion, the ache returns. The ache that says, "I don't know who I am without the noise, and worse, I'm afraid of finding out." Jung saw the outer noise as a symptom of ignored inner war. When you silence your inner world, the outer world becomes deafening. Louder jobs, louder wants, louder women. But it's never enough. Because the pain isn't outside. The pain is within. And silence is the one thing that forces you to feel it. The Stoic response: discipline of stillness. What did the Stoics say? They didn't have podcasts. They had plague, betrayal, exile. And yet they found peace in stillness. Marcus Aurelius wrote in The Chaos of War, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." Seneca warned, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." They knew what modern men forgot. Stillness is not weakness. Silence is not absence. Silence is your battlefield. And if you can hold it without reaching for escape, you win. That's where power begins. Not in what you can chase, but in what you can sit with. The mirror. What would happen if you stopped chasing? Pause for a second. Don't swipe. Don't skip. Don't breathe shallow. Just answer this. What would happen if you didn't fill the silence? If you didn't text back? If you didn't open the app? If you didn't chase her laughter? If you didn't need validation? If you let the stillness get loud? What would it say? It might say, "You have no idea what you truly want." It might whisper, "You're still hurting from what you never admitted." It might scream, "You've been performing for years, and you're exhausted." And yet, this is where it begins. Not by doing more, but by listening. Listening to the death of noise. Practice. The daily discipline of stillness. You don't need a monastery. You need a moment. Start with one small rebellion a day. No music in the shower. Sit 10 minutes with no input. A meal without a screen. A walk without a podcast. A conversation where you ask, then just listen. Not because it's trendy, but because you need to hear something you've never heard before. Yourself. And that voice, the real one, doesn't shout. It only speaks in silence. And if you can't hear it, someone else will control you forever. Closer, and the noise will beg you to return. Make no mistake, when you first withdraw from the noise, you'll feel withdrawal, like a man detoxing from distraction. You'll feel urges, restlessness, the cold hand of boredom on your back. Good. That's the sound of armor falling. Don't fear the silence. Fear who you become without it. Because when you can sit in stillness, when your worth is no longer tied to how fast you reply, how much she laughs, how loud the world claps, then you've won. You become a different kind of man. The kind who doesn't chase noise. The kind who walks into it and doesn't flinch. The next part is even more dangerous. Coming up next in Chain 2, the solitude that reveals. Most men call it loneliness. But if you sit long enough, you'll see what it truly is. The gate to self-initiation. Chain 2, the solitude that reveals. The first layer of real peace is often loneliness, but beneath it, a voice you've never met, your own. The lie of connection. You've been taught to fear being alone, that if no one texts you back, something's wrong, that if your phone is quiet, your worth is fading, that silence means rejection, and that loneliness is a disease. But what if that's not the truth? What if loneliness is not a problem, but a portal, a threshold you were always meant to cross? Modern men confuse constant contact with intimacy. They think a red heart emoji means they're seen, that a 3-hour conversation means they're loved, that sex means they're known. But the truth? You can be deeply connected and still completely alone, and you can be alone and finally meet yourself. The shallow mask of pleasure. How many times have you filled the silence? You had a moment of emptiness and opened a chat. You felt sadness and called someone just to check in. You were afraid of the void, so you fell into someone's body. You said, "I just want connection." But Jung would ask, is that truly connection or avoidance with a pretty face? Because here's the truth no one posts. Many of your connections are painkillers. You're not building relationships, you're buying time, not giving love, just renting distraction. Jung's warning: until you make the unconscious conscious. Carl Jung didn't just study the mind, he studied the shadow. And this shadow has a name in your life: unprocessed loneliness. He wrote, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Your loneliness becomes neediness. Neediness becomes people-pleasing. People-pleasing becomes exhaustion. And one day you look around and realize you've never really been alone, and you've never really been you, because you don't know how to sit in stillness. Not as a punishment, but as a passage, a fire that burns false identities. The masculine path, solitude as initiation. Think of the old myths. The man doesn't find himself in the crowd. He doesn't awaken in applause. He is sent away, to the cave, to the forest, to the desert. He is exiled, not to be abandoned, but to be initiated. The Stoics lived this too. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but wrote in solitude. Epictetus was a slave, but found his soul in silence. Seneca had wealth, but returned to stillness. They knew a man cannot lead others until he has walked through his own silence. The mirror. Can you sit with the orphan parts? Every man has orphaned parts. The angry boy, the ashamed teen, the rejected lover, the scared son. And most men lock them away. But solitude unlocks the door. At first they appear as discomfort, then as grief, then as presence. And one day, as you sit, not running, not numbing, you feel something strange. You are no longer alone. Not because someone came, but because you came back to yourself. This is the masculine right. To face the things you were taught to bury, to carry your own silence without needing applause. To be enough without being needed. Practice. Sit. Witness. Stay. This isn't about cutting people off, it's about cutting through illusions. Try this. One day of no validation seeking. One evening without initiating contact. 1 hour in silence with no input, no goal. Write to the part of you that feels unwanted. Ask it, what do you need from me, not others? Let that be your new connection, not with the world, but with your own forgotten depths. Closer. Solitude is not emptiness, it is sovereignty. Yes, it will ache, it will feel like exile. You will crave the false comfort of voices that don't see you. But stay. Let the ache burn. Let the ache reveal. Because when you do, you become untouchable. Not because you are cold, but because you are whole. You are no longer a man who begs to be seen. You see yourself, and that is what creates true presence. Up next in Chain 3, the luxury of needing nothing. The man who doesn't need becomes untouchable. In this world of craving and noise, we meet the rarest kind of strength, self-sufficiency, and you'll see why it's not isolation, but inner royalty. Chain 3, the luxury of needing nothing. The man who doesn't need becomes untouchable. 1. The age of craving. Everywhere you turn, someone wants something from you. Your attention, your agreement, your response, your energy. And most men give it, because they fear what happens when they don't. We live in an age where needing is normal. Need to reply, need to explain, need to prove, need to be liked. But what if the rarest luxury is not what you can buy, but what you can walk away from? What if true strength isn't accumulation, but freedom from craving? 2. Isolation versus sacred solitude. Let's make something clear. This isn't about becoming a hermit or disappearing into some cave forever. This is about the difference between running away and standing within. Isolation is when you avoid the world because it hurts. Sacred solitude is when you no longer need the world to feel whole. Stoics understood this power. Seneca wrote, "The greatest wealth is a poverty of desires." Jung hinted at it too, that the man who individuates, who becomes whole, stops begging for external completion. He doesn't need to be seen, he sees. He doesn't need to be chosen, he chooses. 3. The death of neediness. Let's get honest. Needing makes you vulnerable, not emotionally, but energetically. When a man needs, he becomes easy to control. She texts back, he feels worthy. She pulls away, he spirals. He gets praised, he feels powerful. He gets ignored, he doubts everything. His sense of self floats, always at the mercy of response. But the man who needs nothing, he doesn't chase, he doesn't explain, he doesn't panic when he's misunderstood. Because he stands inside his own presence. Solid, grounded, immovable. This is what Stoics called the inner citadel, a fortress built not of walls but of sovereignty. 4. Saying no without explanation. There's a moment in every man's life where he must choose. Do I keep performing for approval, or do I finally live for something real? The answer begins with a small word. No. Not the angry no, not the bitter no, not the no that needs validation, but the quiet, grounded, unapologetic no. No to what drains. No to what distracts. No to what is unworthy of your energy. You don't owe anyone your explanation. Your no is sacred. Your peace is proof. Your distance is divine. 5. The Inner Citadel. Marcus Aurelius ruled the greatest empire of his time, yet he wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That is the citadel. You become untouchable not by power over others, but by reclaiming the power others once had over you. When you no longer need her reply, when silence doesn't scare you, when you can sit alone and feel complete. You are no longer a man looking for ground. You are the ground. You don't seek worth, you embody it. You don't beg for love, you become the vessel of it. This is not arrogance. This is maturity, a quiet royalty earned through inner work. 6. Practice. Starve the need. Feed the presence. Try this. One day without checking who liked your posts. One dinner alone with no entertainment. One no you give without explanation. One silent hour in your citadel. No fixing, no chasing. Notice what aches. Notice what fears rise. And stay. Because on the other side of the need is freedom. 7. Final words. The man who needs nothing. Let them talk. Let them misunderstand you. Let them say you've changed. Yes, you have. You are no longer reachable in the same ways, no longer seduced by the same traps, no longer stirred by every emotional breeze. You walk slower, stand taller. Speak less, but say more. You are no longer addicted to attention. You are not a beggar of validation. You are not a responder. You are a source. What's next? Chain 4. The price you must pay. Most men want peace, but few are willing to pay the price. In the next chapter, we'll uncover what that price is and why, once you pay it, you'll never want to go back. Until then, walk in stillness. Stand in sovereignty. Speak only when your words build a kingdom. And if this chain resonated with you, share it. Comment what struck deepest. And subscribe, not to me, but to the version of yourself that no longer needs anything to feel everything. Chain 4. The price you must pay. Most men want peace, but few are willing to pay for it. Number 1. The false promise of peace. Peace is the most marketed illusion of the modern age. You see it in the smile of the influencer, in the tropical beach background of your favorite podcast, in the captions that say, "Good vibes only." But none of this is peace. That is curated stillness. That is borrowed calm. That is surface-level silence while the chaos screams underneath. Real peace doesn't look pretty, it doesn't always feel good, and it never comes free. Because true peace costs you everything you thought you needed. Number 2. The storm before the calm. Let's be honest. To reach peace, you must first destroy your dependency on noise. The need for her response, the addiction to dopamine, the illusion of being busy to feel important. You will feel a death before the rebirth, a collapse before the stillness, a terror before the peace. And this is where most men run. Not because they're weak, but because they've been taught comfort is the goal. It's not. Clarity is. Number 3. Jung's warning. Carl Jung said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." Now, listen carefully. Peace is not a place you visit. It's the reward for facing everything you were running from. The abandonment, the shame, the guilt you disguised as hustle, the loneliness you dressed as ambition. To have peace, you must be willing to feel everything you've numbed. And to do that, you'll need solitude, silence, and brutal self-honesty. 4. The ritual of renunciation. If you truly want to cross the threshold into inner power, you must practice the discipline of letting go. Letting go of her validation, his approval, the fantasy that one more success will finally fix the ache. It won't, because peace doesn't come after the win. It comes when you no longer need to win to feel whole. That's the paradox of power. The man who lets go of control finally has it. 5. Masculine stillness as mastery. Stoics knew this. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Peace isn't passive. It's a warrior's discipline. It means sitting in discomfort without reaching for distraction. Letting the phone ring, letting her walk away. Letting silence stretch beyond comfort, and knowing that none of it defines you. This is when men become kings, not because they conquered the world, but because they stopped needing it to complete them. 6. This is the price. Here is the price of peace. You must let the world misread you. Let the text go unanswered. Let the offer pass. Let the crowd forget your name. You must sacrifice comfort for clarity, validation for sovereignty, pleasing for presence. But once you pay it, once you truly pay, you'll stand in a silence so deep, so free, that you'll wonder how you ever lived addicted to the noise. 7. The final initiation. Imagine this. You are in a room, no music, no one calling, no one watching, just you. And instead of panic, you feel peace. That's the throne. That's the real crown. Not on your head, but in your presence. You are not the king of others. You are king of yourself, and no one can take that from you. Not her silence, not his betrayal, not life's chaos, because you've already let go. And in letting go, you've become untouchable.